Andrew, when you have the ghost of Venezuelan presidents past somehow factoring into present-day elections, you know you're already in Looney Tunes land. But to your point about the fact that this isn't really retrospective, that is all there to set a predicate for what can and may happen in the future. You had Steve Bannon on his own podcast giving a preview of how he at least sees this potentially playing out. Take a listen.
You're damn right. We're going to have ICE surround the polls come November. We're not going to sit here and allow you to steal the country again. And you can whine and cry and throw your toys out of the pram all you want, but we will never again allow an election to be stolen.
Okay, so I understand he's a podcaster. He's a provocateur. Take all of this with a few grains of salt. And yet, when you watch what is unfolding in Minneapolis and other American cities, it becomes clear that the possibility of armed force, the possibility of national officers being deployed for things that are beyond their scope of work is possible or probable, depending on your vantage point.
So, when I was saying look forward, I want to make clear that's just not my speculating about what, concerns me. The Wall Street Journal last week, when this happened, talked about that Tulsi Gabbard would be anticipated to issue a report, that there would be executive orders that could come from that. I think a really fair question for journalists to be putting to Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche, the Attorney General and the Deputy Attorney General, is something I am concerned about, is whether they will simply go in and try to seize ballots in either blue states or blue cities on a claim of this is evidence that they need for allegations of fraud. Will they try and tamper with elections? Will they enforce the criminal statute that says that it's illegal to send in armed forces to surround an election? We rarely have had to deal with that statute because, fortunately, in this country, that's not been a possibility. But now we are seeing that being floated by the president and his allies. And I think those are really important questions for the Attorney General and Deputy Attorney General to answer. And if they don't answer it, it tells us that these kinds of concerns that are being raised, not just here, but but also the Wall Street Journal. So think of that, MS Now and the Wall Street Journal focusing on the same issue because of what we're seeing going on and the comments being made by this administration.
It strikes me, Christy Greenberg, that when Donald Trump has used his Department of Justice to go after some of his most outspoken critics, one of the reasons that their attorneys have been able to make the case for selective prosecution is that Donald Trump forecasted all of it either on social media platforms or in interviews. So when he is in this interview with Tom Yamas at NBC News, and he's specifically naming American cities, I would note American cities that tend to have large black populations, American cities that have Democratic leadership, Detroit, Philadelphia, Atlanta. Does that have any legal salience, the fact that he is forecasting? And I mean, again, we've watched this play out so many times. Yes, he may be asked, have you had a conversation directly with AG Bondi about this? He does not need to. He's on one of the largest platforms in American media forecasting what it is he wants.
Right. And as you said, this is exactly what would go into any brief to challenge his actions, because he forecasts it. He tells you exactly what he's going to do. There are plenty of things he lies about, but there are plenty of times where he is completely transparent. And this is one of them. He is telling you the target cities. Those are blue cities. It's no surprise that that's where he is looking. And, I think it's so interesting because will he go and seize ballots? Well, it seems like he's going to find the fraud later, after the fact, after he figures out whether or not those cities went for him or not. That's what's so fascinating about the fact that, again, he's quiet about 2024 because he won that election. I mean, it's so transparently ridiculous and absurd on its face. So when he's saying these things Look, I think this Department of Justice has shown they are willing to play ball. Their mantra is not what the law says, it's what would Donald Trump do? What does he want us to do? And whatever we think that is, that's what we'll do.
The fraudsters just took off in 2024. They needed a break. They didn't need to worry about it so much, Stephen. And Stephen, I think part of the challenge of talking about all of this, one of the things that hopefully we have all learned from the past few years is that if anything, we've had a failure of imagination about what it is Donald Trump is willing to do in order to dismantle this democracy. You had what I thought was a brilliant piece in the New York Times, sort of anticipating and supposing one of those many ways. Let me read you some of your own writing. Recently, a number of states have undertaken investigations into non-citizen voting, cross-checking voter rolls with citizenship status, and found it virtually non-existent. Playing politics with the idea of fraudulent voters and stolen elections comes at a real cost to American confidence in our elections. It's an affront to our democracy and to all those who work to deliver fair and free elections. It's also an ominous sign for where things may be heading this year. Again, I think when we talk about the immigration enforcement that we have seen all over this country, it's never really been about immigration. It is fundamentally about challenging the rule of law. And there is a very direct line that we can draw from this mass deportation machine to an administration that wants to use some of the same armed officers to reckon with American elections.
Yeah, and you'll see more and more that some of the allegations coming from the president, some of the allegations coming from this new administration are just as crazy as stuff that you might see on social media in the internet. But again, it's coming from government, which is a pretty wild phenomenon. And I think that's going to supercharge people's distrust and disconfidence in the election process. Now, I don't know to what end. I don't know, again, as you said, if it's just chaos for chaos' sake, doubt for doubt's sake, or if it's towards some particular goal, some particular federal government involvement. But what I concluded at the end of that article was that I couldn't have possibly predicted that the FBI was going to seize 2020 election material from Fulton County. I couldn't have possibly predicted January 6, 2021. And so I perhaps need to get in a more imaginative state to be able to be helpful in whatever's coming next.
And as Andrew reminded us earlier, we don't even need to fully use our imaginations because there is already reporting telling us some of exactly what they plan to do.